All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everyone out there. February 7th, and we have a 7-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the games as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. All right, in terms of last night, so we do have a positive night. There's one thing, or a couple things I want to talk about. First and foremost, Buddy Hield over 14.5 points. This got graded as a dub on MGM, so monetarily we get the win there, right? And I'll tell you why this is funny, because he only had 14 points, and most stat sites and box scores have corrected the mistake. Now, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, I saw 15 in my app, and then they did this, they screwed me." No, actually, it was a total mistake. I was watching that game, checking the box score at the same time. Buddy Hield went, and right at the end of the game, like a minute left, went to take a layup, missed the layup. So boom, we could have had 16 right there, but missed the layup. Then there was a rebound, a little scuffle for the ball, and Draymond Green pokes his head in there and gets fouled. Then in ESPN, in the score, any scoring app that you're checking box scores on, right? It says Buddy Hield awarded 2 free throws, and I was like, that doesn't make much sense. Then it says Draymond Green misses free throw one of 2 because he missed the first one. Draymond Green's at the line. Remember this. And then it says Buddy Hield makes free throw 2 of 2. And it's like, what is going on here? But they didn't change him from having 15 to 14 points until like really, really late. I think I checked at like 1 something a.m. and still had 15 points. So they awarded me the dub. I'm not counting it as a win for our win-loss. That's why it's a purple check mark, because I had some splaining to do. But nonetheless, still a positive night overall. But I did want to kind of, if you guys didn't watch that or kind of like what the heck happened, that's what happened with the Buddy Hield situation. I watched it with my own eyes. Maybe this gets changed or, fixed or something voided in the coming hours, but nonetheless, still got a little bit from that, even though we're not going to count it as a win there. I will say this, like I said, I have a couple things to talk about. DeMar DeRozan had like 5 points at halftime, I think, 5 assists, so he had the assists, finishes with 22, I believe is the last I saw. The dude absolutely clutched up. I was scheming and brainstorming how to carve out the tombstone on the DNB graveyard for him, but Tyrese Halliburton, still a little bit lonely in there because DeMar DeRozan saved himself from going on that. Now, if we keep the vibes high, because like I said, we had a green night last night, good enough. We were close with that Pacers and Clippers under. They only hit the over by a couple points, so you know what? I'm not all that salty about it. MGM said, hey, here's a payout for a loss. We're feeling pretty good, right? The ride of the day also coming through here from Parlay Guru. Let's pump in some crowd noise. DeAndre Ayton has been killing it. He has like 1 bad game in his last 10 games. Over 16.5 points. I believe the last I saw he finished with 18, correct? 31 minutes, 18 points in a win against the Kings. Speaking of Ayton and his team, the Blazers are just absolutely torching right now. They're blazing out there. So yeah, they're just unbeatable. Kind of crazy because they are still the Portland Trail Blazers, but nonetheless, the ride of the day did cash. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. Also shout you out over on my Twitter/X, which will be popping up here throughout the show, as well as on the Guy Boston Sports site with the final plays. So if you do have some plays that you like today, make sure to drop them down in the comments with that hashtag ride of the day. If you do win, we continue to roll with you and continue to ride with you. So we're looking forward to seeing what Parlay Guru, a channel OG here, comes up with today. If you lose, we got to talk about it. You got to face the womp womp on the soundboard. But get those hashtag ride of the days down in the comments. Now, that was a lot of ranting and rambling, but I feel like we had some points to hit on there. let's go ahead and jump into today's Friday slate. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get going here. We're starting off with a weird one. Charlotte taking on San Antonio. In terms of injuries here, nothing major to note on the San Antonio side of things, but we do have a few things to note here on the Charlotte side of things. So they just traded for Dalton Knight. He is questionable. LaMelo Ball is also questionable. Josh Green's probable. Cam Reddish also questionable coming over from LA as well. So, and Nurkic, they just traded for, is questionable as well. So we want to keep an eye on the injury report. If we get some of these guys playing, and honestly, not even the new guys, LaMelo Ball being the most important, 11.5 points seems like it's a little bit too much to me. This team can definitely compete in terms of keeping a game to double digits with LaMelo Ball. You throw in the fact that they may be getting a big man down there in Nurkic. Do I think Nurkic is all that great? I have in the past. I've liked him, but not so much this year. But he's still going to give them some size down there. I think 11.5 points is just a little bit too much if we see LaMelo and maybe, I guess I would say maybe like some of those new guys play. So slight lean to Charlotte here. Even if those guys don't play, I really don't love the idea of San Antonio minus the points. Their defense has not looked all that great recently. Like, they really have not. So Charlotte, even though they can't score without LaMelo, like, this could be a fairly easy defensive matchup, which is crazy to say, right? But they just have not looked good defensively. So I don't want a bad defense laying 12 points. Do you know what I mean? So give me Charlotte as a slight lean here in this spot. It's going to come down to injuries to see if we even touch that whatsoever. Total sitting at 227. Now, this is another one. If LaMelo doesn't play, I probably won't touch it, but if he plays, I don't mind an over because I do think that the Charlotte defense can be scored on. They've actually been playing fairly well. Like, the defense has been consistent, but with the addition of De'Aaron Fox, you know, spreading the floor with Vassell, Wembanyama, obviously, I think the Spurs offense only has to go up. But on the other side, it's like, if Charlotte has LaMelo, I just said that this defense stinks on the San Antonio side, right? So, yeah, I don't mind an over 227, but it's all going to hinge on LaMelo there, which is unfortunate. This isn't the best game on the slate anyways, but it is kind of hinging on him. And even if he does come back, he's going to be banged up. Do we really want to put our hard-earned bread on that? Not all that sure. No player props either, just a lot of moving parts in this one. All right, here's another one that I guess we're not going to spend too much time on. Washington, 17.5-point dogs at home. Yes, you know, that's a lot of points, but they are going up against arguably the best team in the NBA. I would say best team, one of the top 3 or 4 teams, all right? Because I'm standing true to my Celtics, even though they looked terrible last night. And obviously OKC is that great. But Cleveland, like, you can make an argument the way Cleveland plays that they are the best team in the league. I just don't think that it's going to be like a winnable argument because you have other teams that are better. But that's not the reason we're talking about it here. Let's just say undebatably one of the best teams in the league, going up against probably undebatably the worst team in the league, right? So this is kind of a tough one here. Washington has won 3 straight games, so you might be thinking they're piecing it together. They played Minnesota without Anthony Davis. They played Charlotte, no LaMelo Ball, and then they played Brooklyn, who, you know, like, I could be starting for Brooklyn right now, right? So I don't want to give them too much credit. I mean, they are that bad of a team that you have to give them credit. I can't talk. They're that bad of a team that you have to give them credit for any win that they get. But now they're playing Cleveland, and Cleveland obviously is just a very good team. So I'm not going to touch this one because just to even hope that a team wins by 18 to cover seems kind of psycho. But at the same time, it's like, are we really going to say, hey, Washington keeps this one within 18? I'm not all that sure. So if I had to, I'd say Cleveland in some sort of a parlay piece throw in. Maybe you knock that line down to, you know, -7 or something like that. I don't know. Terms of a total sitting at 236, it is a fairly high total for what I think is going to happen here. I really see Washington coming in here and struggling to score now. They'll up the pace, right? But they're going to want to shoot from the perimeter, and Cleveland's starting to really click at the perimeter. Last 10 games here above the break in terms of their defense, allowing 33% to their opponents, which is pretty good, right? Washington, that's their best shot spot so far. I mean, they've not necessarily in terms of makes, but where they like to shoot from above the break. So, yeah, they're going to have, obviously, I don't know if Middleton's playing. I don't think we've seen that yet. But they'll have a new little added piece of Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart and then even A.J. Johnson. Like, they definitely made some trades at the deadline, but I don't think that those are, like, I don't think Chris Middleton, unfortunately, I think he's a good player. I don't think he comes in and just makes them, you know, a contender of, not contender for a championship, obviously, but like a contender against a team like the Cavs. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm not really seeing that. So I would say under, but maybe a Washington team total under, because I think Washington's defense is tough in terms of not being good. They play at a fast pace. Like, Cleveland should be able to score both at the perimeter and at the rim. So I'd hate to involve Cleveland in any sort of an under there. Donovan Mitchell's on the injury report. He's listed as probable, so I'm assuming he plays with what I just mentioned. Couple spots to note here that at least I would say would be the notable spots. I think you're going to want to target some catch and shoot guys for this Cleveland team. DeAndre Hunter just got added to their team. I don't know if he's going to make his start, but that's a catch and shoot guy. I bet his line's going to be fairly low because it's his new team. But if you really look at some of the other guys that have already been on that team, right, like Sam Merrill, Max Strus, those could be guys to consider, not necessarily just for points, but maybe for their threes. This Washington team actually is pretty good at covering the pick and roll. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to get a little weary about Mitchell having a phenomenal game, Darius Garland having a phenomenal game. They struggle against the catch and shoot, so they will rush that ball handler, leaving some guys open for a catch and shoot. Their defense is by no means good, but even with blowout sort of in the back of your head, maybe some of these guys could be a look as well, right? Like, I don't even know if we have lines for, I guess we have lines for Max Strus because he'll be starting, but he might get some late minutes. His points are at 9.5, threes are at 2.5 for plus 165. That might be worth a sprinkle to me. Plus 165 for Max Strus. Again, catch and shoot guy. Do we have any lines for Merrill? No. And DeAndre Hunter. So, those are the guys that I'd look at, but it also is a team that has a massive trade incoming, or that just came in. So it's like, are guys going to get, like, if DeAndre Hunter plays, can we count on Max Strus getting minutes? Can we count on, Sam Merrill getting minutes? Actually, Sam Merrill's out, right? If I'm not mistaken. I guess we'll just Max Strus or DeAndre Hunter for me, but that's going to stop there. Not exactly the best game either. I hate that I just dragged you guys through it. Apologies. All right, guys, before we do move on to the rest of the games, I want to talk to you about Underdog. There's a big football game coming up, right? I forget. Is there? Oh, right. Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, Eagles and the Chiefs, playing in the big game here. And you know what? I didn't mention him, but Travis Kelce. He's got a free pick over on Underdog for new customers, and all customers are going to be getting this no sweat token. So risk-free play over there. No better time to sign up for Underdog, guys. They're also going to give you up to $1,000 in a deposit match, which is absolutely a no-brainer. Go take advantage of it, guys. That link will be down below in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Have some additional action on the big game. Check it out. Patrick Mahomes is probably going to find Travis Kelce. All he needs is 0.5 total yards. So you cash that one. You cash whatever else you put in your slip. And no matter what, even if it's a loser, it's a no sweat token. So go check it out. No better time to do so. That link will be in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Patrick Kelce, clearly a new player. All right, here's one that we actually like tonight, and I do like it. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but one in which Milwaukee most likely pulls away at the end, but we're going to need their guys to play. So right now we have Lillard listed as probable, but he is probable. Giannis listed as questionable, not probable or doubtful, just right in the middle, which is in limbo, the worst place to be when you're trying to predict these games. And then Brook Lopez also listed as questionable. You have Kevin Porter Jr. listed as questionable. You have Liam Robbins listed as questionable. We have Kyle Kuzma listed as questionable. And their new guy, Jericho Sims, listed as questionable. So if these guys do get the go, I like this Milwaukee team. Like I said, close game, but to pull away at the end. So I like them minus the 6.5 on the road. I do think that this Atlanta defense just is kind of shot, and specifically in the paint, which, like I've said, was one of their strong suits earlier on in the year, but not anymore, right? Even if Georges Niang plays, he's a tough defender and whatnot, but you're telling me he's going to give Giannis the work? I don't think so. I think we got that one backwards. So I do like Milwaukee to pull away, but I'm going to want some of their guys to play. I mentioned Georges Niang. We have a lot of new guys here on the Hawks as well. Bones Highland, Karis LeVert, Mann, Niang, and am I missing anybody? I don't think so, right? So, it's either going to be Richiche or Niang probably giving a lot of defensive effort towards Giannis. This is already a team that struggles in the paint. I think that they pull away. But I think it's a close game. So maybe like Hawks first half, but Milwaukee full game. I think I'd definitely prefer Milwaukee there. And then from a total perspective, I think Milwaukee's going to be able to put up a decent number. I'm going to lean, I would say, full game under, as crazy as this is to say, because I don't really see where the Hawks score all that well. Now, they have been playing, I guess we can give them some credit for decent basketball, right? You look at the Hawks lately, and I should say offense because they're losing a bunch of games, but they've scored 125 plus in 3 straight games, but that was against Indiana, Detroit, San Antonio. I think this Milwaukee defense should start to click when healthy. Hopefully, I should say, right? So, yeah, I'm going to lean Milwaukee team total over, Atlanta team total under. That probably comes out to, if in my dumb brain, a net under, I guess, but just because it's such a high line. But yeah, I think Milwaukee's maybe my favorite play in this spot. That was a confusing one to kind of work through. It's obviously hinged on Giannis and Dame playing, though, obviously. Couple spots to note. Atlanta really, really bad at stopping the pick and roll now. Milwaukee doesn't run the pick and roll all that much and or all that frequently. Not surprising because Giannis is going to get the ball and go downhill. Dame will run some pick and roll action, so Dame could be a spot to look at player prop wise, and we know that he's listed as probable. That's good, but I really do still want to target guys that are coming off the pick and roll and scoring inside. Luckily, Dame does score inside a decent amount, so maybe that's a spot to peek at, but I think that Giannis could have a pretty good game here. So even though he's not a pick and roll guy, that's the spot to target. I like Giannis over 30.5 points. I think you can get 29.5 in some places as well. And in our, let's see what we have in terms of what we have him projected for in our model, 29.6. So right around that 30 mark. I do like 30 from Giannis today if this game is competitive and if he plays. One good thing is that, this is a Hawks team that even though they, they're struggling against the pick and roll, like I already mentioned. They just kind of struggle everywhere. So we're not targeting their ultimate weakness, but if he just gets to the paint, it's still a weakness, right? So it's not like something that I'm scared about because, oh no, Giannis doesn't play in the pick and roll. It's not the ideal situation, but in terms of how they stop points in the paint, which they don't, that becomes a little bit more ideal. All right, Brooklyn taking on Miami. It's tough catching up to these trades because even when I think about, Miami or Brooklyn, I'm like thinking about, I guess, their teams of old, which not really, but you know what I mean? It takes a little while to get used to some of these. Like, oh, Jimmy Butler's actually not on the Heat anymore. You know what I mean? And they just got Andrew Wiggins, who I don't think is playing today, and Davion Mitchell. Like, these two guys are going to play and give legitimate minutes to the Heat. I have to remember that they're on the team, right? Which obviously that'll come in time. This is probably a Heat spot. I mean, I would say that they're coming off a nice win against Philly. Philly had been playing good basketball. They've won 2 of their last 3. They've actually won 4 of their last 6 games. Not exactly the best of competition, but because, I would normally say that this is like, in that stretch they beat Orlando. Orlando's kind of funky right now, right? But I do give them credit for beating Philly and San Antonio, 2 of their last 3 games. Last time these 2 teams played was fairly recent, back in late January. The Heat won 106-97. The game before that in late December, they won 110-95. I think that now you have the woosah. We don't need to worry about the Jimmy Butler deal anymore. We don't need to worry about the drama. He's gone. Now we can just play basketball. I do like this, and I don't think Brooklyn's defense is really going to fit the bill to stop Miami overall. I do have a spot, and we bet this last time, so we'll talk about it in a second, but overall, I do think that this is going to be a Miami spot because they should be able to score, from the perimeter, maybe not by the guys that you necessarily think, but I don't really see Brooklyn's defense kind of being fully intact. So yeah, give me Miami minus the 6.5. It's a big number, but I do think that this team is only going to go up from here after all that Jimmy Butler BS. Now, I mentioned the idea of if Andrew Wiggins plays, I actually really like this play because I think he's going to give them something that they haven't had in a while, which is someone that can just kind of drive and score inside, like what Jimmy Butler should have been doing, but not playing. But overall, back to what I was saying, I still think that this is a very good defense in Brooklyn, regardless if they're injured and whatnot. It's the way they play defense that makes them good at this, stopping the pull-up jumpers. So yes, they will allow, I think, Hero to get inside and score, and Tyler Hero will probably have just a fine game, right? But I don't like him necessarily in terms of making his threes. He shoots a ton of pull-up threes, so last time they played, he had 25 points, right? But we took his under in threes, which was 3.5. It's still 3.5 now, and he made 3. That's somewhere that I would go again. Like I mentioned, I think he still has a good game. I don't think this Brooklyn defense stays intact really well. I think that the Miami team will be able to break them down. But in terms of specifics here, pull up threes, this is a Brooklyn team that is actually pretty damn good at stopping them. Number 1 team in terms of frequency against, so they don't even allow pull-up threes. Number 2 team in terms of effective field goal percentage against, and number 3 in terms of score percentage, which includes getting fouled and that type of stuff. So pull-up threes, pull-up jumpers, you name it. For whatever reason, this Brooklyn team's good at stopping them. Tyler Hero loves the pull-up, right? He loves pull-up jumpers and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I'm just knocking his threes tonight, not necessarily his game, because like I mentioned, and I said it last time we talked about this one, Tyler Hero will probably have a good game because once you get past that perimeter defense of Brooklyn, which it's not like it's world-beating perimeter defense, but the way they charge you, sure. Once you get past that, it's going to be the open seas for him, right? And he'll be able to open it up. But I don't think he's going to be coming off these screens or getting the ball, pulling up and hitting threes. Now, it is Brooklyn. Anything can happen. But, yeah, I think Tyler Hero under in threes could be a look tonight. I'll sound the cycle alarm. Call me crazy. In terms of what we have from a total, very low, right, at 211. I could see this one getting to 212, as weird as that is to sound. I have this pegged at a 216 game via our model, so I'm going to just kind of trust that. Obviously, the data's not always there, and these models aren't built out yet with the newly acquired players in mind because we lack that data, so I'm going to lean over, but ever so slightly. 211 just seems a little bit too low. Do I think the game is going to go flying over and be a fast-paced game? No, but I do think that 211 is a low number here. All right, Detroit taking on Philadelphia. Like I mentioned, Philly's been playing some decent basketball, some competitive basketball. Joel Embiid most likely going to, I believe, play in this one. So good for them. I'm not all that. In fact, I heard Kyle talking about it on his show, and I couldn't agree more. Most people were like, Joel Embiid, triple-double in his first game back. He had 30, if you really watched that game, Joel Embiid looked like a square peg in a going into a circle hole, really. He did not look right. Now, I'm not of the belief that he's ruining that offense. I'm more of the belief or understanding that was his first game back. It's pretty hard to throw in a dominant ball guy and personality back into a lineup. So that's more or less what I'd be thinking, but I agree with him when he said it on his live show that this was not, it didn't look like Joel Embiid. Like, Joel Embiid, if you just didn't look at the stats, you'd be like, okay, he doesn't really look right. You know what I mean? Yet he had a great game numbers-wise. But they're going up against Detroit, who's a good in-the-paint defense. Cade Cunningham is listed as questionable, as is Tobias Harris. Those are going to be two major injuries, obviously, to note here. I think this is going to be a close game, like a very close game, back and forth type of a game. So I'm giving the Sixers credit because I think that they're starting to kind of piece some things together. Yes, they've lost a few games, but they've been playing really competitive, right? 7-point loss to the Heat, 8-point loss to the Celtics. They should have won that game against the Celtics, but as a Celtics fan, I can't complain. They're up 26 at one point, and then they lost by 3 to Denver. So they're playing competitive basketball, but you can't say the Pistons aren't playing competitive basketball either. I think that 3.5 points could really come in clutch, and especially if it gets to 4 later on in the day. I think that could come in clutch later on in the game. So I'm going to lean Detroit here plus the 3.5. This is a Sixers team that, if they do try and score in the paint, I think Detroit's going to be fairly good at stopping them. I worry that, the Sixers may be able to light it up from deep because that is not Detroit's, forte in terms of, guarding and stopping opposing teams, but hopefully that ain't the case. Hopefully they can put it together. I would not consider Detroit if Cade Cunningham doesn't play, though. He's obviously the main cog of that squad. In terms of what we have from a total, 225 as of right now. Yeah, I'm going to lean towards the over. I think even though Embiid being in this lineup, this might slow things down and whatnot, but you know what? Like I said, there's a chance that Philadelphia can score from the outside and kind of up this one, and I'm liking Detroit as of late. Their offense has been pretty good. They've gone 115 plus 5 straight games, 130 against Atlanta, 127 against Chicago, 117 against Dallas, 119 against Indiana, and then against a good defense, 115 against Cleveland. And they've been playing at a fast pace, so I'm hoping that their pace translates into this one. You know what I mean? A player prop spot that I'm considering here, and I kind of want to iron it out a little bit more, but I'll still say it here. I'm liking Tim Hardaway Jr. over 1.5 threes. My concern is that I want to iron it out a little bit more, try and project some more volume from him, right? But right now we're looking at minus 150 over on FD. I think this could be like a minus 175 consensus, minus 180 consensus. So I still think there's 30 cents of value over on FD, but I don't know if we just take our shot and pull the trigger or that type of thing. I want to make sure he gets the minutes because I think spot-up shooters could do fairly well against Philadelphia as of late and, specifically in this game. So I'm considering that, but we'll probably end up, if we can get that within the minus 150s, it might be something that we consider, even though it's more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. All right, OKC, 19-point favorites. 19-point favorites in this one. Do they deserve it? Maybe. I mean, RJ Barrett's out. Jakob Poeltl's out. They just got Brandon Ingram. He's listed as doubtful. They got PJ Tucker. He's listed as questionable. I guess it makes sense why they'd be these big of favorites, but at the same time, you're crazy to lay 19, right? You got to be. You got to be an absolute psycho if you sit here and you're like, yes, OKC will definitely win by 20 points. That just seems crazy to me. It seems ludicrous. So I guess by default, I'm going to look at Toronto here. This is different than the Washington spot because it's not like I'm sitting here being like, well, Washington, I can't. That's not enough points for them. It's like Toronto's actually undebatably played some good basketball. Now, are they at the end of their sort of rope of playing good basketball? Maybe. They've lost 2 straight games, but New York and Memphis, like 2 really good teams. Not to say, OKC comes in here and isn't a good team, because they're probably the best team in the league. We talked about Cleveland earlier, but OKC's probably knocking them off, right? I don't know. 19 just seems too much. I don't even know if it's worthy of the psycho alert alarm. I'm gonna go Toronto plus the 19 points. I think that they can keep this to with 20. Do I actually roll with it myself? I don't think so. That's the crazy part. It's like they're so injured, they're so banged up. They had such a good run, but now they're on the road. This Toronto team on the road is way, 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 way different. So yeah, I probably don't touch it, but I don't think that I can make sense of 19 in my mind for OKC. We're sitting at a total of 230.5, right? So right now we have this pegged at a game of 125 to 107, which is, I guess, slightly over this line. Toronto, as of late, has been playing with a pace that you could consider fast, I guess, for them, but are their guys going to be playing here? I'm not sure, and I think OKC can probably stop them, as Toronto likes to score in the paint a lot, so maybe this is like a Toronto team total spot. Now, we got, we cashed this last time we took it, and we've been getting a little greedy because we're moving the line down and down. As 20-point dogs, their point total's got to be super low, right? Yeah, minus 165 or under 107. So maybe I just look at an under in the game overall, because does OKC, like, if they get off to a big lead, do they really need to push the tempo? Not all that sure, but I do think that they might be able to score in the paint, especially with all these injuries for Toronto. And I'm not touching player props in this one. I think it'd be pretty crazy because of one, the injuries, and like talk about the book saying, hey, this could be a blowout. It's right there in front of you. Phoenix taking on Utah. Now this is going to come down to some injuries. We don't have Jordan Clarkson. We don't have Colin Sexton. Okay, so those we know on the Utah side of things. Now we're waiting on Kevin Durant and Ryan Dunn, seeing if they're going to play. Bradley Beal's also banged up and listed as a game-time decision. If those guys don't play, I think I would happily look at Utah plus the 9 points on the Phoenix side. Now, even if they do play, I don't know if I'm like all that against Utah plus the points. Utah's fairly healthy. Yes, no Colin Sexton, and that's huge, but when we have George, Collier, Markkanen, Collins, Walker Kessler, like that's fairly healthy compared to what they've had to deal with all year. And I don't think this Phoenix team is ready to just lay 9 points to anybody. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. They are 4-6 against the number in their last 10. Yes, they're at home. They're coming off of a big time road trip. I do understand that, but they have Denver on deck tomorrow night. I think this could be a sneaky Utah spot overall. Now, Utah has a game tomorrow night as well in which they go to the Clippers, but I don't know if that's going to matter as much to them, whereas Phoenix may be sitting there being like, yeah, that game against Denver is going to matter. So, yeah, that could just be me in sort of the way that I'm thinking about it. But to me, it's like, the Suns kind of battling for a playoff spot. Utah, not really, so they're probably taking games by game versus, look at spots. Maybe it is what it is, but I'm going to lean Utah plus the 9. What number? It's at 8.5 right now. So, yeah, it's moving. If you can get a 9, I know we're trying to wait on some injuries, but I really don't mind it. I mean, they're getting healthy, and I think they're playing what you could consider somewhat competitive basketball. I mean, they're 26 and 23 against the number this year. Like, they've been a good against the spread number. On the road, 57.7% cover rate. So I don't think it's that crazy. I think you look at the defense and whatnot, you're probably like head scratching, but still, I'm going to lean in that direction. Total sitting at 231 here. This is probably a game that, I would say finishes near 230. When you look at Phoenix, okay, their offense has been kind of iffy, right? But they've actually moved into a top 10 spot in terms of offensive efficiency on the season. And this Utah defense is quite literally awful, right? On the season, worst defensive efficiency team. We should see tons of isolation scoring and tons of pick and roll scoring from this Phoenix squad. So I do think that they can kind of push the tempo, and Utah will happily run with you. So I'm going to lean over 231 in this spot. But I think it gets just right around that 230 number. So maybe like 232, something like that is what I would have pegged. Overall, yeah, actually perfect. In our model here, we have a 117 to 115 win for Phoenix. That's 232, which I didn't even look at that prior to, and Utah covers. Perfect. In terms of what we have from player props, like I just mentioned, we should see the ability for pick and roll and isolation to work out beautifully for this squad. Now, you could look at Devin Booker. His line's way up there, 29.5. I do think Kevin Durant has a little bit of that ability to hit some threes in him too, like spot-up threes in particular. Durant spotting up with Booker off the screen, so maybe that's a look as well. Nothing that I'm like loving on the Utah side of things. Even though this Phoenix team, their defense isn't all that tremendous either, I would probably target maybe someone in the mid-range for Utah. I think that's how you can kind of get this Utah team. So let's see who that would be, because I don't have that off the top of my head right now. Anyone that's going to kind of shoot like in the mid-range or kind of right in the paint. Yeah, maybe a look at someone like Keontae George. I don't know, because he could hit some threes too. I don't think I'm messing with the Utah side of things. I think I'm already crazy enough to be looking at them plus the points. So I would consider someone like Durant in terms of player props, though, because he should have some catch-ups, huh? How about your mustard? He should have some catch and shoot and that type of stuff, and as well as spot up opportunities. But overall, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's show. You might be sitting there being like, that was a lot of like this is not the best slate. There's some good games to watch. I do think that Miami-Brooklyn's going to be good. I think Philly-Detroit's going to be good. I think that Milwaukee-Atlanta's going to be good. And obviously, if I do roll with Utah, I kind of like the idea of the dog, right? There's some games that I don't think that we're going to have much interest in. Charlotte-San Antonio, Washington-Cleveland, OKC-Toronto, you know what I mean? So it's a mix and match slate, but we saw the board pretty well yesterday. I don't love it as much as I do. Today I don't love it as much as I did yesterday, I should say. So if you're like, yeah, you kind of rambled on about a few things. Yeah, I probably did, because it's kind of a weird slate. I think we can all agree on that. But that is going to wrap it up for today, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.